All right, I think everything is up on the YouTube side of things. Let me get the stream here going on Twitch, which I know it's up. I just gotta get the I got all this that stuff. Should have been here. Where is it? It's under this. That's why. So I hope everybody is having a good Wednesday. It's been kind of a crazy couple days, as you probably already know. With the racing out of Martinsville. The one thing I'll guarantee that you will not get is you will not get any political things on the podcast. We're not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So if that's what you were looking for, you've come to the wrong channel. I am going to talk strictly about NASCAR. We are going to strictly talk about racing, even in between the breaks. I'm going to try to make sure that we do what we can to stick on topic today with the NASCAR races that happened this past weekend at Martinsville. So if you guys are trying to come in for any other reason, I kindly ask you to leave, or your stuff might be really regarded in the chat. So we're going to get ready to do the podcast here in a minute. For those of you that have never watched the podcast live before, basically what I do is I record this, and then I have kind of some segments that I usually try to chop in and give you guys an opportunity to talk to me during these live streams. A lot of success with people asking a lot of questions in the past, mainly because I don't really have a set schedule with this. It's not like I sit here and tell you guys, hey, I'm coming on at XYZ time. I do realize that, but I do record these for archival purposes. So if somebody wants to go back and actually watch the live stream of it, they can. And sometimes we do get a couple people in here to watch it. So there's reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. If it seems like the camera gets a little, tilted up, that is because as I'm using my laptop, it does tilt the camera up. So I do apologize about that, but it's just I don't have the laptop on a flat solid surface. It's on a softer surface, so it does tilt from time to time, especially when I'm using the the laptop to record. So I do apologize about that, but a lot of times during the show physically itself, it does not move all that much. So we're just going to grab our intros and outros here, and we will add that segment in. And I'm going to grab my transitions real quick, and we will get going on the podcast. All right, I think I got everything I need. If anybody has anything you want to add, like I said, try to keep it to the topic, which is NASCAR. And I will try to answer those questions in between the segments. And let me get this all set up here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my introduction. So we will talk about that. And then we'll get going here on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. So give me 1 second. And I think we're good. Everything's running on the other sides on the live stream, so we're good there. We're going to get started. Hey, everybody, what's up? This is Bobby here at the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, coming to you with another episode here. Boy, what a weekend. What a weekend we had out at Martinsville Speedway as we have our Final Fours. We had a Hail Mary shot by Kevin Harvick at the end of the Xfinity 500, which... we'll talk about what that is. We'll talk about the, the controversy or non-controversy of the Denny Hamlin, Eric Jones radio chatter. I know there was a lot of people interested in that. We really didn't talk about it much on the social media accounts, but I'll give you guys my take on that because I'm sure that's what you guys want to hear. And then we'll also break down the Xfinity race and the truck race all at Martinsville. And then we'll tie up a couple loose strings on the 2021 silly season, some stuff that kind of, got made a little bit more official. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the whole thing with Kyle Larson, officially being named the driver of the 5 car, which I think we kind of touched a little bit, but we'll kind of go into that a little bit more. And then we'll look ahead to Phoenix. We'll actually preview Phoenix as our last segment as we head into championship weekend for the first time at Phoenix. I think it's going to be a great weekend for the series. I think it's going to be something that we're all going to remember, the first Phoenix championship weekend, I think for sure. And I think we will see a surprise champion in one of these 3 series this weekend. And I'll give you my championship picks based on the Final Fours and a whole lot more coming up here on the Coochie's Corner podcast. I am Bobby Bailey. All right, so that was the first one. And usually what happens is it takes a little bit of time. Takes a little bit of time to process. So that's where we get this time that we could chat. So if you guys have anything, whether you're on Twitch or on YouTube, if you have questions, like I said, if it's NASCAR related, please keep it to that. I know the tendency has been asked that people have asked me questions about movies and stuff, and I try to keep it on the topic of NASCAR because I don't really think it's my job to give you guys stuff. That, so we'll call that. And let me see, anybody got anything? No questions. So I guess everybody's good on that side. And everybody's good on this side. So we will kind of move this segment around. All right. I think that's good. And I just want to have one other thing open real quick before I go into my next segment. Just want to open the media side on NASCAR, see if they got anything updated on here that I didn't see. Oh, they do have the starting lineups. Cool. All right, so we could talk about that as well. All right, that's good. That's exactly what I wanted to look for. Cool. So that will be good. And season finale 500. What? How do you not have a sponsor for this race? Oh, I guess we're going to be talking about that one. That's interesting. We don't have a sponsor for the final race of the season. Come on, NASCAR. How do you let that one go? Ay. Interesting. All right. We will get started on this segment. Let me click into the right microphone. And we shall begin. All right, guys, back here on the Coochie's Corner podcast. This is Bobby Bailey, breaking down Martinsville. I guess we'll start with the truck series, first and foremost. What a crazy race. I mean, you look at Martinsville, which is traditionally had 2 dates for the truck series. This was the first year they moved one of the dates to Richmond, which I know left a bad taste in some fans' mouths because, Martinsville is always producing really good truck races. And it's, kind of that beating and banging that most people are used to, and associate with this series. And considering this was a short track series when it first started out, this was not the 1.5 mile restrictor plate driven series that it's sort of become in the last several years. This was always a short track, beating and banging kind of series that they moved one of the dates away from Martinsville and gave it to Richmond, I think was met with some skepticism because you're taking a date away from one of the original tracks of the sport, and you're giving it to a track in Richmond, which is I think deserving of a truck race. I've never understood why. We went there for a few years and then they stopped, and then they're now coming back 15 years later. I don't really understand that, but I guess that was, just some schematics or something that they decided that, the truck racing there and that, Richmond wasn't good enough to host a race, but now all of a sudden it is. So we'll see how that all pans out as the years progress here. But nonetheless, the race at Martinsville delivered for the truck series. I thought overall it was a great race. I thought it was really the race that, really kind of threw a big monkey wrench in a lot of things. I mean, you look at, you go back and look at the race results. It was not a race that, you could have called one way or the other, because with no practice, there was a lot of guys that were in positions early in this race, like Zane Smith, who just had no idea how to get around Martinsville because he'd never raced there before. So you take him into account, and some of these other drivers that are out there, especially that started towards the front of this pack. Like I said, Zane Smith, never been there before. You look at some of these other guys, Sheldon Creed's got some experience there. But you look, Derek Krause has never been there before. Okay. Christian Eckes, I believe, had been to Martinsville at least once in his career at KBM, if not twice. But you had some other guys that were kind of, in interesting positions. You look at even some experienced guys like Brandon Jones, I don't even know if Brandon had a truck series start at Martinsville prior to the one that he made last Friday night. But, Brandon Jones was in a pretty interesting spot as well. He was in the top 10 because of where that truck has finished the week before. He had a top 10 starting spot in the 51. So you look at the overall race results, Grant Infinger picking up the win, led 5 times for 49 laps. Again, a pretty dominant effort towards the end of the race. Grant, I think most people would say that Grant Infinger is a short track racer. That's what he's known as. But if you look at his career, he's won at Talladega. He's won at Daytona. He's won at big tracks. He won at Atlanta earlier in the season once we got back from the coronavirus break. And you look at those things that we've seen out of Grant Infinger this year. He's a guy that, really a win was going to help him out tremendously. His teammate Ben Rhodes needed a win, did not get that win. Zane Smith is in the playoffs, is in the Final Four as well. Matt Crafton needed a really great win. He didn't get that, but, had a good run. And you can even look, Stuart Friesen kind of showed up. And I think, Stuart Friesen, the last, I'd say 5 or 6 races, has really turned this season around for him. This was a guy that early in the season, everybody was kind of wondering what was going on with Stuart Friesen. You put him in a Kyle Busch truck. Okay. These are KBM built vehicles that he's driving. It took them a long time to figure it out. This wasn't something that, they jumped into these trucks and basically moved into their own building. They're, running TRD engines. They're, using, TRD, development and stuff like that. And then they have to deal with Rowdy manufacturing to get chassis from them and things like that. These are trucks that, again, these are brand new to Grant. To Stuart Friesen, these are brand new to him. So these are things that he's never had before. When he was over with the Chevrolet program, they were GMS built trucks. They were, Chevrolet motors that were built by ECR and all that. So he's in a different setup, and, they're in their own shop. They don't have, somebody in the shop with them that's telling them what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong or whatever. This is their own shop. This is their own deal that Halmar Friesen Motors Racing has gone into. So, for Stewart's team, they're starting to kind of turn that corner. I would say going into 2021, they're going to be one of those drivers and teams that you're going to have to compete with. I think Stuart Friesen is a guy that even you got to watch out for this weekend at Phoenix, as a potential spoiler for a race win. This guy, isn't in the playoffs. He's not, in the championship 4. He didn't even make the round of 10. He's going to be somebody you have to watch out for, because guess what? He has a career win here at Phoenix. So you're looking at someone who potentially could steal the win away from one of the championship 4 guys, and he could, in theory, really mess up the playoffs for those guys, and make the race interesting, where the guy that wins the race might not be the champion, but the champion might have to finish 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever, in order to win the championship. So I think it's going to be an interesting one. But like I said, getting back to the truck race, I thought it was kind of a lot of beating and banging. There wasn't there wasn't one guy that was just dominant. You had Johnny Sauter early in the race, looked like he was going to have a shot at this thing. He kind of slipped back. Even Raphael Lessart had a shot at this at one point during the evening. But you really look at Sheldon Creed, started out, on the pole, led 65 laps throughout the course of the evening, had a really strong truck. But what does he have to show for it? He has an 8th place finish to show for it. So Sheldon Creed obviously moving on. But, you look at guys that had great runs. You have Danny Braun had a great run in that 30 truck. That's a really good run. Austin Wayne Self, 9th place. This team has really started to come into their own. And this is a program in AM Racing which has been all over the map. This was a Toyota team at one time. Then they went Chevrolet with Nice Motorsports. And that's kind of like they were plugged into Nice, and now they're kind of separated from Nice. And they're working a lot with Jordan and Anderson. They're sharing a shop with Jordan and Anderson now. So you kind of see how that AM Racing deal, and at one time they were even tied in with Wintron, one of the ARCA teams. So this team has kind of bounced around with affiliations and kind of where they've been. But if you look the last couple of weeks, Austin Wayne Self had a great race out of Texas. He's had a good race in Martinsville. And maybe they're starting to build some momentum that maybe Austin Wayne Self is someone you're going to have to keep an eye on as next year progresses and we move into 2021 in the what will be the Camping World Truck Series once again. So good runs there. Another solid run by Derek Kraus, the young man out from the West Coast, coming out and running east with Bill McAnally's team. Just another solid run by those guys, and just an impressive run with a kid that doesn't have a lot of experience in Martinsville. So a good run for them. Another solid run by Trevor Bain, 11th place. Running the trucks for the first time at Martinsville. A solid run for those guys, and you would have to think that Trevor's gonna really do whatever he can to put some money together to run that 45 truck full time next year for Al Nice and the folks over at Nice Motorsports. Where Carson Hocevar will be in one of those trucks next year. I know Trevor's working really hard to be in the other truck, and then they might have a third truck over there at split for Ross Chastain and maybe some other folks like Natty Decker and things like that. So we'll see how that all pans out going into 2021. But you look at the night, disappointing night for John Butter. Definitely thought he was going to have a shot at it. Brett Moffitt had a disappointing night. All things considered, that 23 truck was looking really good at one point. Looked like they were going to have a solid night. And then you look, Austin Hill with his engine problems. I know he was very vocal about those Elmore engines, and very disappointed in them. He had a rough night, finishing 35th. And then you look at, guys like Tanner Gray, who was involved in an accident. Tanner Gray's had some good runs here lately as well. Todd Gilliland, another rough night for those guys. But then you just look at some of the other folks that are above them. And then, like I said, you look at Brett Moffitt, Ryan Truex had some problems early in the race before the race really even got going. Ryan Truex lost 30 laps right at the beginning of the race. They had a mechanical problem they had to fix on the Marquis Chevrolet. So lots of things going on in this race, but overall, a big win for Grant Enfinger, and he gets ready for the Championship 4 race at Phoenix, which will be coming up on the evening for the Gander RV and Outdoor Truck Series. moving on to the Xfinity series. What can I say, guys? Just another, crazy race at Martinsville. Harrison Burton picking up his second straight win of 2020. After that thriller in Texas, where he came out of nowhere on the last lap and passed Noah Gragson, and really, I think, kind of shocked the world, if you would, looking at his effort. Going back to the Texas race briefly, you look at Harrison Burton, and I think Noah was just so surprised that he lost that race, and you can see the dejection. You could see him being angry, and the F-bomb heard around the world by Noah kind of, brought back some memories of when Dale Jr. kind of said the S word during an interview on NBC in 2004. And, they fined him and they penalized him points, but Noah Gragson got nothing out of his F-bomb on the TV after losing Texas to Harrison Burton. But, you look at Martinsville, and this was a race that, we all kind of sat there, and when you look at this race on a calendar, you're like, boy, this is a real wild card, especially in the playoffs. A track that a lot of these guys have never been to before, because it's been 14 years since the series had been there. And unless you were a truck driver at one point in the truck series at one point, or drove a cup car at one point, you really don't have any seat time here. So you look at Harrison Burton, he doesn't have a lot of seat time there, but his father obviously gave him a lot of pointers. And Harrison Burton picked up the win, leading, 81 laps? Yep, on the way to victory. So a big win for those guys. And again, Harrison Burton's not in the playoffs. This is a big win for him. This is a statement win. This is hey, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with come 2021. He gets to win. Justin Allgaier finished second. Noah Gragson third. Jeb Burton in a race for Junior Motorsports picked up a fourth place finish. Ross Chastain finished fifth. Riley Herbst in sixth. Chase Briscoe seventh. Then you had Michael in at eighth. Brandon Jones ninth. And Austin Cindric in 10th. And you go down the list, and again, and you're looking at guys runs. Ryan Sieg had a great run, but needed to win. Justin Haley did what he had to do to get into the championship four. Another solid run by Brett Moffitt in that Hour Motorsports Chevrolet. Another great run for him. How about JJ Yaley showing up in 14th? A great run by those guys. Rick Ware Racing bringing out their own Xfinity car. This is not a car that they have in a partnership or anything. This is their own Xfinity stuff that they brought out to Martinsville and had a great 14th place finish. So looking for those guys to really kind of be in that mid 15 to 20 battle in the Xfinity series next year when Rick Ware decides to go full time again in Xfinity. And then you have guys like Jeremy Clements, Tommy Joe Martin's another good run for him, and his small team. Timmy Hill in 17th, Brandon Brown 18th, Josh Williams 19th, who is returning to DGM next year. So big news there for Josh Williams. Mason Diaz, a name that you really haven't heard a lot of, got a solid 28th place finish for Sam Hunt Racing. That team has run a limited schedule this year. They have Joe Graff Jr., Jesse Little, Myatt Snyder in his final race with RCR for at least 2020. Stephen Parsons in 24th. Kobe Howard 25th. AJ Allmendinger, who had just an absolute heartbreak of a race. Had a flat tire late in this one. Came back and finished 27th and probably one of his worst runs of the season. Jeffrey Earnhardt in 28th, 29th. Cody Vanderwall. Kyle Weatherman 30th. Donald Tetage there in 31st. The first time I think I've heard that name in a couple years. Carl Long 32nd. His first race in an Xfinity car this season. BJ McLeod in his own 78. I think that's the first time he's been in his own car this year, if I'm not mistaken. That would be the first time he's been in his own car. Ryan Vargas, 34th. 35th was Greg Galding. Obviously, those guys were looking for a better run. Bailey Curry in the 74. Chad Fincham in the 61. 37th. 38th, Matt Mills, who had some problems early. And then Josh Reaume in his number 93. Well, it's not his 93. It's really RSS Racing's 93. But he was doing the start and park effort for that team, just because Myatt Snyder was driving for RCR in his final start of 2020 for those guys. So big win, like I said, for Harrison Burton. The final four for the Xfinity guys is going to be Al Geyer, Cindric, Briscoe, and Justin Haley. For the trucks, it's Zane Smith, Brett Moffitt, Grant Infinger, and I'm forgetting the fourth guy as I'm thinking right now. Sheldon Creed, I believe, is the fourth driver over there. And then we get to the Cup race. Now, listen, going into this race, we all knew that Martinsville was going to be nutty for the Cup guys. We knew this was going to be one of those races that we would be talking about for a very, very long time. I didn't realize how many days we would still be talking about it because, literally there was some chatter about it all the way through yesterday, really. So, I think that the big thing you look at early on is, just who do you think was going to win? I think after Texas, seeing that, the mile and a halfs are done, you had Logano got one win, you had Kyle Busch winning at Texas in a very dramatic fashion. I mean, Kyle Busch, when you think about Kyle Busch, you think about Kyle Busch dominating races, okay? And Kyle is a guy that, and I know last week we didn't really have an episode, so it's kind of why I'm tying in Texas and Martinsville into this. Kyle really hasn't won a lot of races by fuel strategy. This isn't a guy that wins a lot of races on fuel mileage. This is a guy that normally goes out and dominates races. This is a guy that normally goes out and just straight up just whoops the field. And he's out there, 2 Sundays ago, he's out there winning a fuel mileage race, something that is not in Kyle's, repertoire. It's just not. This is not the style that Kyle Busch normally runs in. And I think when you look at Texas and Kyle Busch winning, then you're like, okay, well, we had a non-playoff guy. So who's going to win Martinsville? And there's a lot of people that said, oh, this is Hamlin's race. Some people were out there saying, I could see a non-chase guy like, maybe, you got a surprise winner like a Clint Boyer, maybe Matt DiBenedetto puts it together. There's other people in here that you could say had a legitimate shot, but I think a lot of people, if you're going to look at non-playoff drivers, Boyer was one for sure, and Kyle Busch would be another. But you look at the end of this race and you see Chase Elliott gets the win, and Chase had the car for the most part. Chase had the car early. Then he kind of had some pit road miscues. He had some problems. He had a penalty that was kind of rescinded. But if you look at the rule book, it really wasn't a penalty. NASCAR kind of called it wrong and then had to go back and kind of rescind the penalty because they realized they screwed up, which led to a lot of interesting conversation on Twitter. And I think what's always interesting is people, their tendencies, all right? The natural tendency to on Twitter and social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, was when this whole thing happened with Chase Elliott was, well, Chase Elliott's NASCAR's new golden boy. He's now Jeff Gordon. He's now Jimmy Johnson. He's the fair-haired child in NASCAR's eyes. And that is such an assumption that a lot of people make. And, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, the rules are the rules. If it says in the rule book that guy's allowed to reestablish his position by touching the wall or jumping behind the pit wall, if he jumps over too early, then that's the rule. It's not, they're not giving him a favor. They're not paying off NASCAR. This isn't one of those situations. Just like, when you sit there and there was people that were making conspiracy theories about the whole Eric Jones, Denny Hamlin thing, and we'll get into that later on. I just think that people just sometimes, that's a natural instinct, is to jump to conspiracy theories, jump to these reactions. And when you look at the rule book's plain and clear. This isn't something that NASCAR, this isn't a judgment call. This wasn't NASCAR's judgment where they're like, we're going to turn a blind eye. This isn't the Chase Elliott radio situation at Kansas, which single-handedly could have ruined Chase's chances to even be in the playoffs. I mean, in the championship four. But now you look at it, Chase is in, because he won at Martinsville. So you could take the radio situation and say, hey, they should have black flagged him and made him fix it. Which you can be on either side of the fence with that. But at the end of the day, you look at it and say he's in the championship for now anyhow, because he won Martinsville and he won it, basically in convincing fashion. I mean, you lead 236 laps. I mean, that's almost half the race. And the only other guy that led more than 100 laps is Martin Truex Jr., who had a flat left rear tire late in the race. There's not much else he could do. You had two guys that needed to win, and one of them won. So it really threw the championship into quite an interesting turn of events. But we'll give you kind of the top. I guess we'll give you the top 15 here for the Cup guys. So you had Chase Elliott winning, Ryan Blaney in second, Joey Logano third, Brad Keselowski fourth, Kurt Busch in fifth, Alex Bowman in sixth, seventh was Eric Almirola, eighth was Clint Bowyer in his final race at Martinsville, ninth was Kyle Busch, and 10th was Matt DiBenedetto. 11th, Denny Hamlin. 12th was Eric Jones. 13th, Cole Custer. 14th, Matt Kenseth. 15th, Christopher Bell. 16th went to Ty Dillon. 17th went to Kevin Harvick. And then the rest of the guys were all a lap down, at least or more. You had Ryan Newman in 18th, 19th, Ryan Preece. 20th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 21st was Bubba Wallace. 22nd, Martin Truex Jr. 23rd was Austin Dillon. 24th, Tyler Reddick. 25th, Corey LaJoie. 26th, John Hunter Nemechek. 27th, Daniel Suarez. 28th, Michael McDowell. 29th, Timmy Hill. 30th was Jimmy Johnson. 31st was J.J. Yaley. 32nd, Josh Bilicki. 33rd, Quinn Houff. 34th, Joey Gase. 35th, William Byron. 36th, James Davidson. 37th, Brennan Poole. 38th, Chris Buescher. And 39th was Garrett Smithley. So those are the results. The championship four, it's Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and Denny Hamlin will be going for the Cup Series championship at Phoenix. What we're going to do is we're going to take another quick break here on the Coochie's Corner podcast. We will come back on the other side, and we will talk about team orders. Were team orders really in order at Martinsville? And is that why Denny Hamlin got to advance onto the championship four? Or was this much ado about nothing? I'll give you my take right here on the other side of the break of the Crew Cheese Corner podcast hosted by Bobby Bailey. All right, so now it's processing. So for those of you on the live stream, we have some time to chat. So if you guys have any questions you want to ask, feel free to do so. If not, we will let this process for a minute here, and then we will get back to we will get back into the podcast. Let's see here. Sorry for the little bit of dead air there. So one of the other things I like to chat about during these breaks is diecast that I got in. So I got the Matt Kenseth. This is the Credit One Bank Chevy Camaro. So this is the one that he started running out at Darlington once the Cup Series got back in action. And this is the same car he's going to run this weekend at Phoenix for what is very likely his final start in the Cup car. It is autographed. It's very faint, very hard to tell, but it is a Matt Kenseth autograph. And I got that in from our good friends over now at Circle B Diecast. So go check them out, circlebdiecast.com. And I think that was all the diecast I've gotten in the last couple of weeks, really. I mean, I guess I don't know if I showed this, but I did get this Kevin Harvick car in as well. This is the Darlington race winner. Okay. Not a big Harvick fan, as I've said in the past, but just a really cool diecast to have. This is the Elite. This is number 45. Ironically, Kevin won his 50th race in this particular car. The Busch Light, your face here, Ford Mustang. And this was the Darlington winner. The first race back from the COVID break that we had in Kevin Harvick's 50th career Cup Series win. So kind of a neat car to have in the collection. One that kind of sold me on it was that it was a big milestone win for Harvick. So those were the most recent additions to the collection, as well as this other car that I'm going to pull out real quick. We have a Ryan Blaney car. This was a car I added about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. This is the Talladega race winner from 2019. This is kind of a hard to get car now, so kind of happy I found one recently. So that goes in the Ryan Blaney collection. And if you're on Facebook, don't forget, we do have a Ryan Blaney diecast group. It's called Ryan Blaney Diecast Collectors. And you could submit your application to join as long as you answer the membership questions and you answer them correctly, meaning you give Ryan's correct car number and some other stuff. We will let you join. So. And this is my opportunity to also tell you about the different accounts that we have. So you can check us out on social media. It's facebook.com/Crew Chiefs Corner. Actually, I'm sorry. It's / The Crew Chief. So you can check us out on that. On Twitter, we are at The Crew Chief. Also on Instagram, Crew Chiefs. I believe it's at Crew Chiefs Corner. And then also on TikTok at Crew Chiefs Corner. So you can follow us along on social media. And then the podcast is pretty much available wherever you listen to your podcast. You can check out the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, radio.com, Stitcher, Breaker, Bullhorn, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, obviously Anchor, which is where we do all of our uploading and distribution from, is coming from Anchor. So check it out. We have 32 other episodes up, so you guys can enjoy that. So let me get this appropriately titled. Texas and Martinsville race. That is up. Added. I don't know if I'm going to need all these transitions today. I might have gotten transition happy a little bit because I really thought I was going to fit another segment in, but I don't know if I'm going to. Besides, the ones I'm doing that I already got planned. Come on. There we go. Cool. That. And we might not need this last one. We'll see. All right, cool. All right, so I don't see anything on the YouTube side as far as questions. And I don't see anything on the Twitch side. Let me just double check. Don't see anything over there either. So we are going to get started on the next segment, which will be talking about the Eric Jones, Denny Hamlin thing, and also Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch. So we'll talk about the two controversies of Martinsville. Let me pick the right microphone so it will sound proper on the podcast. All right, guys, back here on the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast. This is Bobby Bailey bringing you now kind of, I guess you could call this the opinion piece of the podcast, where I'm going to talk about the main controversies that came out of Martinsville, at least for the Cup cars. So there was some radio that NASCAR was going to investigate. Essentially, there was supposedly, of what people heard, during the race, there was some chatter that Eric Jones was asked not to pass Denny Hamlin. Apparently, they knew kind of that Hamlin's championship for kind of hung in the balance. And they knew that if Eric Jones got around him, that would leapfrog Hamlin out and potentially could put Harvick in and Hamlin out. Listen, at the end of the day, NASCAR investigated this. There wasn't really anything to this because Hamlin was getting his bumper literally beat in by Eric Jones. Eric Jones was consistently trying to get around him throughout the race. I know there's been a lot of chatter about the 100% rule, which is what people were referencing, which was a rule that was kind of put in place to prevent what we saw way back in 2012, which was the infamous Clint Boyer spin that benefited Martin Truex Jr. into getting into the playoffs. And then them finding out that this was all done on purpose. And then they put Jeff Gordon in as a special 13th driver into the playoffs, but they didn't penalize Martin Truex Jr. much more than just making him essentially eliminated from the playoffs, in the first round because they penalized him enough. I think when you look at this and you see the people that are going back and saying, well, this is shades of last year when Premium Motorsports and Rick Ware and some of these teams were conspiring to put, I believe at the time, the 27 above the 96 to be the best open car in the series, and how that all ironically turned out that Rick Ware ended up buying out Premium anyhow and ended up with that 27 that was an open car last year, which was now a chartered car this year because of the mergers that happened and some of the deals that were put in place. So I think at the end of the day, you really look at this whole Eric Jones, Denny Hamlin thing, and while it did have some stench to it, you don't like seeing team orders. I think that's one of the things that most fans would agree on is that, NASCAR has not been a team order sport. But I think if you look at the schematics of it all, really and truly, Eric Jones could have absolutely straight up dumped Denny Hamlin. And I don't really think there would have been much Joe Gibbs Racing could have done. Because despite the fact that this guy is basically racing his final race for Joe Gibbs this Sunday at Phoenix, you're not going to turn around and fire this guy over dumping Denny Hamlin and ruining Denny's shot at making the championship 4. Because then you have to replace him for a race, and you really don't have a guy in the fold that's experienced enough to throw in a cup car at the final race of the season. So I don't think Gibbs was going to do that. I think at the very least it would have been post-race had that happened, but we didn't get to see that. And Denny Hamlin is able to advance into the championship 4, and was going to be able to compete for the championship. So we'll see how that pans out for him. The other controversy, which really wasn't a controversy that a lot of people had some differing opinions on, was that Kevin Harvick Hail Mary coming off of turn 4 and just flat out dumping Kyle Busch. I didn't really think it was a smart idea on Kevin's part because we all know how fiery Kyle Busch can be. We all know how Kyle Busch handles certain situations. That is definitely going to go in the memory bank for Kyle. You could bet your bottom dollar that if Kyle needs a point in a championship bid in subsequent seasons, that he will remember what Harvick did to him that night in Martinsville, and that might very likely come back to haunt Kevin Harvick. Ironically, Harvick wrecking himself right out of contention for getting into the Final 4, and thus keeping Brad Keselowski in, who only got in by, I think, a couple of points. I know at the end it kind of opened up. It was like a 9-10 point cushion because Harvick was credited with a 17th place finish, the last car in the lead lap, where if he finished right behind Kyle, I think he would have finished something like 7th or 8th. So a tough night for Harvick. But as he said, we didn't get it done this round. They had some pretty bad finishes at Kansas and Texas, very un-Kevin Harvick-like races, and a very bad race out in Martinsville. I mean, these guys were historically bad Sunday evening in Martinsville. I mean, they were really bad. And it seemed like once the track got cooler, once the lights came on, the 4 car kind of came alive late in that race. And that was the one thing I think that was a silver lining for Harvick in this whole battle, was that Kevin Harvick's car was sort of peaking at the right time. Kevin Harvick has always been known as the closer. So Harvick is able to go out there and put on one of those performances. And if you didn't know any better, Kevin Harvick shows up late in these races. He comes up in big spots. I'll never forget Kevin Harvick in 2014 when he won that championship, had his back to the wall heading into Phoenix, walked off and won at Phoenix, and then came back the following week and won at Homestead, a track that he never won at before. So Kevin Harvick has done some remarkable things in his racing career, and to see Kevin Harvick go for that Hail Mary and was unable to obtain that extra point that he needed in order to make the playoffs, the championship was a sight to see. And the fact that he was wrecking Kyle Busch. And NASCAR looked at this. They looked at this for, I guess, the sheer reason of, making sure that there wasn't any kind of funny business going on. But I think that, the drama of wrecking somebody in order to make the playoffs, make the championship has been something that NASCAR has basically been begging these drivers to do ever since they put this playoff format into use. And I think at the end of the day, it is exactly what NASCAR wanted to see. And it is what made fans watch this race and go back and watch that finish again and again and again. So NASCAR did nothing for Harvick, and then no penalties came out for Denny Hamlin and or Erik Jones. Now, in the grand scheme of things, what does this really matter? It doesn't really matter much. But I think what it does answer is the people that were going on social media after a race that were crying the blues. If you're a Kevin Harvick fan, a lot of them were kind of upset, about the car and about things. And I can understand that frustration. But Harvick kind of did it to himself there late in that race. That was a Hail Mary attempt that he knew he had to try at least. And he would have been more angry if he didn't. I think the other thing is that if you look at, the Erik Jones, Denny Hamlin situation, I think people were making a mountain out of a molehill. In all honesty, I don't think that was really that big of a deal. I think people were trying to make sure that NASCAR just didn't sweep this one under the rug. But they did look at it and basically realize what everybody else did, which is that Denny Hamlin was getting his bumper beat off by Erik Jones, and not, necessarily a team order was given to not pass him. I think that, I think Erik Jones was very flippant and wanted to pass him anyhow. He didn't really care about any, thing he was told on the radio, whether he was instructed to or not. But, I think NASCAR kind of saw that, that Erik Jones was doing everything he could to try to advance his position. He just flat out couldn't get around Denny Hamlin there late in the run at Martinsville. So a very interesting, kind of investigations after the races. Nothing came of it, which is kind of what we expected. But at the end of the day, two guys had very differing ends of this deal. Like I said, Harvick was eliminated, and Hamlin was, is basically allowed to live another day. But we head to Phoenix. We have some race previews to get to. But before we do that, I wanted to kind of tie up the bow on the Kyle Larson situation. And I know we didn't really get a chance to talk about it very much, the last episode that we recorded. So I wanted to spend a couple minutes going over it. Listen, first and foremost, as someone that had been kind of in the forefront of this whole thing with Kyle from the very beginning. I mean, if you go back and listen to some of the first episodes that are out there of the Crew Chiefs Corner podcast, and I said it then, say it again now, Kyle Larson is very deserved of a second chance. I think most people look at this situation and say that he actually improved his ride, which, you can't make no bones about it. Kyle Larson did get a markedly better than the seat he had at Ganassi. There's no doubt about it. But the one thing that is different with Kyle Larson, and I'm happy to see this, is that Kyle Larson's a different person today. If you get a chance and you haven't listened to the Dale Jr. download, I recommend that you do, and you go listen to the episode with Kyle Larson in it, and you can listen to some of the things that Kyle has done, whether it's the urban racing school out in Philly, whether it's some of the other community work that he's done. He's a different guy. He's improved himself. He's bettered himself. He's made himself, kind of a role model to those that do make a bad, terrible mistake. And you look at a guy, you want to see how remorseful he is. And you could tell he's very sorry for what he said. He's very sorry for what he did. I don't think the penalty that he got from NASCAR was too harsh. I think Kyle actually, in a lot of ways, didn't ask for reinstatement because he wanted to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's a different person. He's a better person for going through this. And kudos to Kyle Larson for that. Kudos to him for, to consistently inspire himself to go out and expose himself to different experiences in life. Whether that was, he kind of talked briefly about going out to Minnesota, especially to Minneapolis, before the George Floyd incident, to go talk to some folks out there, and especially after the George Floyd incident, to go talk to people and go and walk the streets to see the destruction and understand why people would have done that. I think that says a lot about Kyle's maturity in this area and kind of how he's changed himself for the better. And I think that this is something that, those of us that want to make ourselves better people, you can kind of see some of the things that we can even do ourselves to make ourselves better and make ourselves better people. And I think that Kyle needs to be commended for that. But it's a long, long road to full forgiveness, I think, in a lot of people's eyes for Kyle, and that's understandably so. Kyle's admitted to his mistakes, and I think he's going to come out on the other side of this and is, like I said, going to inspire some people that have made mistakes, that there is a path to forgiveness, even in today's cancel culture and in today's society, that you're able to redeem yourself, but you have to work at it every single day, like Kyle Larson has been. And I do think that he will get that redemption ultimately at the end of the day. And I think Kyle Larson knows there is no third chance. This is his second and final chance at this Cup career. He doesn't have a third one in his pocket. I think Rick Hendrick took a big risk on this young man. I think Kyle Larson has proven again this year that he is a generational talent. We have mentioned that a few times. He's one of those generational talents in a car. I think Kyle Larson's going to win a bunch of races at Hendrick Motorsports. I don't think he's going to win a bunch right off the gauntlet, but I do think that right off the top, I do think he's going to win several of these races and, in his career. And I think that he's in the right situation. I think the number 5 is a fantastic call by Rick Hendrick. Get him out of anything that has any tinge of whether it would have been Jimmy Johnson or replacing Dale Jr. in the 88. This is a clean slate for him. He gets the number 5, which was last driven by Casey Kane, a fellow dirt racer that, Larson looks up to and a good friend of his. So I think that that's another thing. And, I do believe that this is going to be, where we're going to see things. So good for Kyle. Happy for him. And, we'll see how all that gets started with him and Cliff Daniels starting at Daytona in 2021. So that was pretty much all I wanted to do on this particular segment. What we're going to do on the other side of this break, we're going to come back and we're going to break down the Championship 4 for you in the trucks, in the Xfinity Series, and in the Cup Series. And I'll give you my championship picks. And we'll get all that going right here on the Coochie's Corner podcast, hosted by Bobby Bailey. All right, guys. So one more segment to go. All right. Let's see. It is finally there. So let me do this. Get that in there. And that's there, that's there, that's there. Oh, messed that one up. All right, so one last episode, one last clip here, guys. All right. Let's see. What we got? Nobody. All right. All right, back here on the Crew Cheese Corner podcast. This is Bobby Bailey bringing you the last segment here of the 2020 regular season. I mean, well, not the regular season. I meant the 2020 round of 8 we're going into championship 4. So we're gonna can that one, boys. We're gonna can that one. That one's gonna get deleted. That does happen. You get tongue twisted every once in a blue moon, and we gotta go back and delete a thing, which we will do. But we're gonna restart. Welcome back to the Crew Cheese Corner podcast. This is championship 4 time. So we are going to predict the guys that will win the championships of the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series. First and foremost, we will go back and look at the Final 4 for the trucks and get you guys situated with that. We do know that Sheldon Creed is in. We know Brett Moffitt is in. Zane Smith is in. And then we also have Grant Enfinger, who is going to be competing in the championship 4. What a championship 4 we have in the Truck Series. I'll tell you that much. It's quite interesting that we have those 4 guys. A 75% chance that GMS is going to win this championship if you're looking at just straight up numbers. But, realistically, looking at guys at their histories at Phoenix, obviously, you look at Brett Moffitt, has a great shot. Grant Enfinger is a short tracker. He has a great shot. But then both Sheldon Creed and Zane Smith are kind of the wild cards. Zane Smith has had some Xfinity Series experience here. He has, that experience, and you flat out don't know. I do think Brett Moffitt gets the deal done on Friday evening at Phoenix. We will see Brett Moffitt as your Truck Series champion. And then, you go to the Xfinity Series. Listen, guys, I've been saying this for a while. I didn't know how this Final 4 was going to shake out. But if you told me at the beginning of the season, if we were going to have Justin Allgaier, Chase Briscoe, and Austin Cindric, I said, yeah, that would have been great. It was always, for me, the 4th driver. Who was that 4th guy? Who was going to be the person that was going to step up and be that 4th title contender? I knew all along Allgaier was going to get there. I knew Briscoe was going to get there. I knew Cindric was going to get there. For me, it was always the 4th person. Early in the season, was it going to be Noah Gragson? Was it going to be Harrison Burton? If Brandon Jones wins this race at Phoenix, I mean, geez, he's the Final 4 guy that nobody wanted in there. But Brandon Jones really stepped up this year as well. So I think you look at how this season's going to come to an end. I really do think that it's really going to be hard to pick against Briscoe or Cindric. I do think Chase Briscoe wins this championship. As much as I would love to see Allgaier getting the win, I think Justin's got the right. He's got the right starting position. He's got the right equipment. He's got all that stuff going for him. But I do think Chase Briscoe pulls out this championship and caps off a very emotional 2020 for him and his wife. But a very well-deserved win and a well-deserved championship. as he moves on to the Cup Series in 2021, driving that 14 car, replacing the retiring Clint Bowyer. And then we get to the Cup cars, the big race on Sunday evening. We know that this is going to be one of those Final Fours that we're going to remember for a long, long time, for lots of different reasons. But you have Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, all fighting for the championship. Listen, Logano was the winner at Phoenix in the spring. Hamlin has won here in the past, has been very good here in the past. But Brad Keselowski and Chase Elliott, you cannot sleep on these guys. Brad Keselowski has won a lot of races with this 750 horsepower package. He is the one that I think you're going to have to watch. I do think there is going to be a surprise champion of this weekend, and I think the surprise champion is not going to be somebody that a lot of people were thinking of in the beginning of the season. I think if you go back and you watch and listen to a lot of the Championship 4 chatter at Daytona, I don't think a lot of people had Chase Elliott down as their champion. I think a lot of people have put Chase Elliott in this Championship 4 and as a champion coming out of this weekend. And I think he is a surprise champion this weekend. I think Chase Elliott gets it done. That 9 car has got a lot of momentum coming. We know how good Chase has been at different tracks this year. He's won. He won at the Oval at Charlotte. He won the Roval at Charlotte. He won at Daytona's road course. He had won last week at Martinsville. And oh, by the way, Chase Elliott's pretty good at Phoenix as well. He doesn't have a win there, but he's pretty good. And I think that 9 team's going to win. I have a feeling it's going to be Chase Elliott's day on Sunday. But I do think keep an eye on Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano. Those are guys I'm watching. Hamlin. Here's my thing on Hamlin. They always find a way to choke. Every single time they've been in this spot, they've choked. I think Hamlin's going to choke again on Sunday. I think that this is going to be a championship between Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, and Brad Keselowski. I think Hamlin's going to come in 4th. And I really do think that this is really going to come down to Chase Elliott and probably Joey Logano for this championship. And I do think Chase Elliott's going to prevail. I don't think any of these 4 guys are going to win this race. I think the winner of this race is going to come from a non-playoff driver. I wouldn't even be a bit surprised if Kevin Harvick doesn't win this race. I do think that it will be Chase Elliott winning the championship. Maybe not winning the race, but Chase Elliott will be your 2020 NASCAR Cup Series champion. And thanks for all the support this year, guys. I really appreciate it. We will have an episode to break down the championship after Phoenix. I'm not sure what day it's going to be. It'll probably be a little bit later in the week. But thanks, guys, so much for the support. I have a lot of really cool things planned for this offseason. We're going to do 3 more episodes of NASCAR for Rookies. Kind of have that all mapped out, how we're going to do that. And then I think we're going to go back and do some kind of best of Crew Chiefs Corners from 2020. We're going to kind of put some episodes together and kind of mash some into, like the best of silly season rumors, maybe a best of race recaps and some of that stuff, just so you guys have some of those things. And I think that would kind of make the final part of 2020 a little bit more enjoyable for all of us as we go through, this crazy year that we've been going through. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. We will also do some, maybe some looks at, the rookies for next year. We'll look at, maybe some up and coming drivers, lots of things on the docket. But nothing solidified beyond, like I said, the 3 NASCAR for Rookie episodes, and then we'll kind of figure out from there how it goes. But we're going to try to get you guys everything done. So, we'll get through it. We'll get through this weekend. We'll come back and we'll break everything down. So we will see you guys next week with 3 champions to talk about. So really looking forward to that, and maybe through different race winners too. So thanks again for all the support. Make sure you tell your friends about all of the social that's going to roll so you can keep up with us during the off season. I plan on keeping the site up and active throughout the year, whatever news comes out and things like that. And we're looking for an even better 2021. So make sure you let your friends know about our previous episodes. Let them know about the NASCAR for Rookie stuff that's out there. And like I said, there's at least 3 more of those coming, and some best of Crew Chief Corners episodes from this past season are going to come out. So we'll catch you guys next week, and then we'll take you through the rest of 2020. So have a good week. Enjoy the races out of Phoenix, And for those of you that are fans of any of the Final Four drivers, hopefully your driver comes out as champion. Catch you guys later. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. We are going to upload this and then go on most major platforms. So we'll see you guys next week, and see you then.